Hey folks, at this point in the module we've just talked about the idea of claims and support. What I want to talk about now is a practical tool for helping us see the relationship between those things. It's called the argument pyramid. Most of you are probably familiar with this kind of drawing, often called a spider web or mind map. If you use this kind of tool, that's great. One of the difficulties I've seen with it, though, is a lot of people don't use it very well. It can be powerful, especially as a tool for generating and associating a whole bunch of ideas, but often it can be constraining. In fact, I've seen a lot of teachers use handouts that have exactly this shape on them, with a blank in the center of each circle to write your one main idea and your 4 subpoints. That takes away a lot of the tool's power to represent complicated ideas. What's nice about this, though, is that it's visual and it's spatial. You can see how important an idea is by how far it is from the center, and you can see how everything's connected. On the other hand, you're probably all familiar with this kind of outline, commonly called the Harvard outline. The nice thing about this is that it helps us see pretty easily the hierarchy of our paper in a really linear way. That is, if you took out everything that starts with a letter, you can see all the main points of the paper. And if you look at any given subpoint, you can see both how it's connected to the main idea by looking at the points it's nested under, and how important it is by looking at how far it is from the left margin. The problem with this for me, though, is that it's really wordy, and it doesn't really let you see the shape of your paper. Also, many students usually do it like this example, where Roman numerals 1, 2, and 3 correspond with introduction, body, and conclusion. At that point, we started to confuse how the paper is organized with how the ideas are related. And with both of these techniques, I think, it's also a problem that we tend to think about ideas and points instead of claims and support. They're also less useful because we tend to think of them as brainstorming tools, and so we use them to help us get started, but not usually to examine writing that's already in progress. There's nothing wrong with either of these techniques, and I'd never tell you not to use them. What I'm proposing today, though, is a simple variation on these techniques that will make them a lot more powerful. It's called the argument pyramid. It looks a lot like a mind map, but there are a few key differences that make all the difference in the world. So let's start with an example topic. And please, don't write about this, not just in my class, but probably ever. Unless you or somebody you love is on death row, it's probably going to be really hard to find something new to say. But as tired as it is, it's an easy one to practice with. You'll notice a couple of things to start out with, and those are the first 2 rules of this technique. Number 1, your main claim goes at the very top and in the very center. Where the mind map works out from the middle, this technique works down from the top. Second, you'll notice what I have here is a claim in a circle. Try to make sure you're expressing a claim, not just an idea. And so in this circle, I've got a complete sentence that takes a position on an issue. It's a claim because it's something that my readers won't all accept as true. Because of the nature of arguments, all of our claims need to be supported. This is what the argument pyramid is best at, helping us see that support. Imagine this main claim is the capstone of one of the pyramids at Giza. The only way the pointy bit stays up where it is if there's a whole lot of stuff underneath holding it up. You get rid of that bottom layer, pretty much the whole thing falls down. We often talk about evidence when we think of support, and we'll get to that in a minute. But think for a minute about what evidence, direct, factual evidence, you could give for this claim. There really isn't any. Should or shouldn't questions aren't built on facts, at least not directly. They're built on reasons. If I say that Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the tallest skyscraper in the world, well, there are facts I can give you to support that claim. I can tell you how tall it is, and I can show you how tall all the other buildings are, and we can see which one's biggest. But if I tell you it's the best building in the world, the only kind of support that I can give is reasons. I can say that I think it's the best because it's the tallest, and then I can give those facts about the height. But usually, when we have big ideas like this one, we don't have direct facts that we can use to support them. Instead, we support them with other claims. In the argument pyramid, the support for a claim goes right underneath it. In this case, I have two reasons, or two supporting claims, that back up my main claim. The death penalty is looked down upon by the international community, and the death penalty is wasteful. Both of those statements take a clear position that not all readers will accept as true, and so both are claims, and, as we all know, claims need to be supported. So let's go deeper. Each level of the pyramid follows the same rules, and so, as with the level above it, this supporting claim needs to have its own support structure. If not everybody would accept that the death penalty is looked down upon by the international community, then we need to back that claim up. But here we see something different. Because this is a claim about facts, here we can and do have some evidence. And this is the third rule of the argument pyramid. Evidence, that is, those facts or statements your readers will accept, goes in a rectangle instead of a circle. If your evidence is a personal experience or a premise that your audience already agrees with, you can just state it in these rectangles. But if you're doing this as a part of your planning, and if your evidence comes from your research, make sure to put as much information as you can in these rectangles, so you know you can track down the idea again when you need it. As you can see here, I have a direct quotation from an article. I also have the source for that article, its title, and even the URL of the web page where I got it from. As with above, this claim too is supported by another claim, and that's fine. We can keep going as deep as we need to in this hierarchy, and the deeper we go, the more developed and thorough our argument is. The important part is that our claims are ultimately supported by our evidence. The argument pyramid makes this really easy to see with a couple of last, slightly more complex rules. A circle is stable if it rests only on evidence or on other stable circles. Finally, your main claim must be stable. At any point in this process, then, you can evaluate how strong your argument is by looking at how stable it is. This claim has nothing but evidence underneath it, so we're good. This claim has some rectangles underneath it. It also has a circle, but since we already figured out that that circle is stable, it's good too. An easy way to do this part is just to look at the whole picture. If you look along the very bottom row, no matter how deep it is in the structure, you should ultimately find that everything on the bottom layer is a rectangle. And looking at this pyramid, there's a problem spot. Do you see it? This claim has a problem. There's no evidence for it. That doesn't mean it's not true, of course. It also doesn't mean that you don't have evidence for it. It just means that right now, that evidence isn't in the paper or the pyramid, and you need to make sure that it gets there. Because if this claim isn't stable, then this claim isn't stable, and your whole argument isn't stable. So that's the argument pyramid. It's one of the most powerful tools I know for understanding how an argument is structured. It's also a great way to make sure that you're providing readers with enough evidence. In case you're curious about my evidence here, I'll include a link to my presentation itself in the description of this screencast. Feel free to check it out. Have a great day.